Epidemiology of communicable diseases. Today's topic is poliomyelitis. Let's see introduction to poliomyelitis. Poliomyelitis is acute infection caused by RNA virus. This virus primarily affects alimentary tract, but in few cases, that is in less than 1% cases, this virus can affect or it can invade central nervous system and it may result in paralytic polio. So simply what we can say, paralytic polio can occur just in less than 1% of cases. Let's have a look at problem statement in world. Since 1954, majority of developed countries they achieved success for elimination of poliomyelitis. This success was achieved only on the basis of widespread immunization of poliomyelitis. Year 1988 is important because this is the year when WHO passed a resolution of global eradication of poliomyelitis. What is the current scenario of poliomyelitis? So till 2017, there were 3 countries where poliomyelitis is found in endemic form. These countries includes Afghanistan, Pakistan and Nigeria. In this slide, you can see abbreviation WPV. WPV stands for wild polio virus. There are 3 types of wild polio viruses, type 1, type 2 and type 3. Now, since 1999, not a single case of wild polio virus type 2 has been reported. So, in the year 2015, month of September, it has been declared as global eradication of wild polio virus. However, virus is still present in research laboratories. Since November 2012, wild polio virus type 3 has not been detected. So currently it is only wild polio virus type 1 which is circulating in our environment. In this slide, again you can see one more abbreviation. It is VDPV. VDPV means what? It is vaccine derived polio virus. This virus is derived from oral polio vaccine. And this vaccine derived polio virus, it is capable of causing paralytic polio. So if we want to eliminate poliomyelitis caused by vaccine virus, it is important to stop use of oral polio vaccine so that we can eliminate vaccine associated paralytic poliomyelitis. What is scenario of poliomyelitis in India? So in this image you can see a small baby. She is the last case of poliomyelitis which occurred in West Bengal in the year 2011. Since 2011, no case of poliomyelitis has reported from India. So it was on 27th March 2014 when India was declared as non-endemic country for poliomyelitis. So now India is polio-free country. Now at global level, aim is to eradicate poliomyelitis caused by both wild poliovirus as well as vaccine derived poliovirus. So it was year 2013 when Endgame strategic plan was introduced by World Health Organization. Polio eradication and Endgame strategic plan 2013 to 2018, objectives of this plan includes detection of poliovirus and interruption of its transmission, strengthening of immunization system, containment of poliovirus, and legal aspect for fight against polio. Steps included in this strategic plan are as follows: detection of virus, interruption of its transmission, strengthening of routine immunization system in all countries to improve immunization coverage in infants, withdrawal of oral polio vaccine. Before that, introduction of inactivated polio vaccine in routine immunization schedule, and the most important step is switch, and this switch is from trivalent OPV to bivalent OPV. As we know, wild poliovirus type 2 is globally eradicated. And why this switch is required? This is essential to reduce risk of VAPP, that is vaccine associated paralytic poliomyelitis. Strategic plan further includes polio surveillance. Polio surveillance, it includes surveillance of all cases of acute flaccid paralysis, plus it also includes environmental surveillance. Acute flaccid paralysis surveillance, it further includes 4 steps. First step is identification and reporting of AFP cases in children, transporting their stool sample for laboratory analysis, isolation of poliovirus, and last step is mapping the virus. What are causes of acute flaccid paralysis? Acute flaccid paralysis we can see in poliomyelitis, in GBS, that is Guillain-Barré syndrome, in traumatic neuritis, as well as in transverse myelitis. All cases of acute flaccid paralysis must be notified. So when to notify it? When practitioner comes across any case of acute flaccid paralysis, it must be immediately reported to SMO. Here SMO stands for Surveillance Medical Officer, or it can be reported to District Health Officer by fastest mode of communication. Confirmation of AFP. For confirmation, it is important to take 2 samples of stool within gap of 24 hours, and it should be collected within first 14 days of paralysis. Cold storage is essential. For transportation of stool sample, it is important to maintain reverse cold chain. What is meaning of reverse cold chain? It is to maintain cold temperature while transporting stool sample from peripheral part till the sample reaches to the laboratory. In laboratory, isolation of virus is done. If poliovirus is identified, next step is to identify whether it is wild poliovirus or whether it is vaccine derived poliovirus. If it is wild poliovirus, further identification it includes whether it is type 1 virus or whether it is type 3 virus. Mapping the virus, it means determination of genetic sequence of poliovirus. This genetic sequence, it is checked with the reference bank of known polioviruses. This steps helps to find geographic origin of newly found virus. The second type of surveillance is environmental surveillance. It includes testing of sewage sample or testing of other environmental sample to detect whether poliovirus is present in the environment or not. Environmental surveillance, it is recommended even for polio-free areas because it provides insight into the international spread of poliovirus. VDPV, that is vaccine derived polioviruses, there are 3 categories: C, I and A. CVDPV, in community, person-to-person transmission of this virus can occur. IVDPV is immunodeficiency associated vaccine-derived poliovirus. Infection is mainly seen in primary immunodeficient persons, and these persons are further capable of transmitting infection. AVDPV is ambiguous VDPV. It can be isolated from those individuals who are not immunodeficient, or this can be isolated from sewage sample. Let's see epidemiological determinants of poliomyelitis. Epidemiological determinants, it includes understanding of agent factors, host factors, and environmental factors related to poliomyelitis. Agent factors. Poliomyelitis is caused by RNA virus. This RNA virus belongs to the family Picornaviridae. This virus primarily infects alimentary tract, but in very few cases it is capable of affecting central nervous system. Poliovirus is of two types, wild poliovirus and vaccine-derived poliovirus. Simply, we can say wild virus and vaccine virus. As you know, wild poliovirus has three serotypes, type 1, type 2 and type 3. All these three serotypes are capable of producing paralytic polio. Similarly, this virus, that is wild poliovirus, is capable of surviving for long periods in external environment. In water, poliovirus can survive for 4 months, whereas in feces it can survive for 6 months. Let's see epidemiological characteristics of three different serotypes of poliovirus. As we already said, all have potential to produce paralytic polio, but type 1 has highest potential to produce paralytic polio, whereas type 2 rarely produces paralytic polio and type 3 less frequently produces paralytic polio. Reservoir of infection. Man is the only known reservoir of infection. Here, man means clinical cases or subclinical cases of poliomyelitis. In case of children, for every clinical case, there can be 1000 subclinical cases. Whereas, in case of adults, for every clinical case, there can be 75 subclinical cases. Do we find chronic carriers in poliomyelitis? No. Like we can find chronic carriers in typhoid fever, we won't get chronic carriers in poliomyelitis. Now, what type of cases will play major role in transmission? These are mild cases or subclinical cases which play important role in transmission of polio. Infectious material or source of infection, it includes feces and oropharyngeal secretions of cases. It means these secretions may contain poliovirus. The virus is excreted in feces for the period of 2 to 3 weeks, and maximum period can be 3 to 4 months. What is period of communicability? It is that time during which clinical cases as well as subclinical cases are capable of transmitting virus to the new susceptible host. This period is 7 to 10 days before and after onset of symptoms. Host factors. Age. Poliomyelitis can occur at any age, and children are more susceptible than adults. But in India, 50% cases are reported during infancy. Most vulnerable age group for poliomyelitis is 6 months to 3 years of age. Whereas in developed countries, we find The cases are reported after 5 years of age, and near about 25% of cases they are reported even after 15 years of age. Males are more commonly affected than females. Male female ratio is 3:1. Risk factors are those factors which can precipitate poliomyelitis. These factors include fatigue, trauma, intramuscular injections, operative procedures like tonsillectomy, especially during epidemics, and it may include administration of vaccines like DPT, that is diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus. Immunity. Risk of poliomyelitis begins after the age of 6 months. Why this is so? Because up to the age of 6 months, maternal antibodies provides protection to the babies. Immunity can be acquired after natural infection or after vaccination. In both cases, immunity is lifelong. It means those people who suffer from poliomyelitis or those people who take vaccine of poliomyelitis, they become immune to poliomyelitis for longer period. Environmental factors. Poliomyelitis shows highest transmission during rainy season. In India, about 60% of cases were reported from June to September. Even during cold climate, the virus is capable of surviving for longer period. Mode of transmission, it includes direct transmission and indirect transmission. Direct transmission occurs through contaminated fingers. Indirect transmission occurs due to consumption of contaminated food, water or milk. Even flies can contaminate food, and fomites can also play important role in transmission. Another mode of transmission is droplet infection. This mode of transmission, it is mainly seen in developed countries, and droplet spread occurs mainly during acute phase of illness. This is the phase when virus is present in oropharyngeal secretions. Incubation period of poliomyelitis. It varies from 7 days to 14 days, and the range of it can be from 3 days to 35 days. What is meaning of incubation period? It is the time interval between entry of poliovirus inside the host till appearance of first sign or symptom of poliomyelitis. Let's see clinical spectrum of poliomyelitis. Clinical spectrum of poliomyelitis, it includes inapparent or subclinical infection, abortive polio or minor illness, non-paralytic poliomyelitis, and paralytic poliomyelitis. Inapparent or subclinical infection, it is seen in about 91 to 96% of cases. That is, about 96% of cases of poliomyelitis, they have subclinical infection. They do not show any signs or symptoms of poliomyelitis. Now, how these subclinical cases can be identified? They can be identified by virus isolation or by doing some serological test. Abortive polio, or it is also called as minor illness, it is seen in about 4 to 8% of cases. In this stage, virus is present in circulation, so there is stage of viremia. This is mild form of illness manifested by some respiratory symptoms or some GI symptoms. Respiratory symptoms may be sore throat, or GI symptom may include abdominal discomfort. This is self-limiting illness, and majority of patients, they recover from abortive polio or from minor illness. Next part in the spectrum of poliomyelitis, it includes non-paralytic polio and paralytic polio. Non-paralytic polio, it is seen in 1% of cases. This stage is characterized by pain and stiffness in muscles of neck and back. Duration of illness, it remains for about 2 days to 10 days. Paralytic polio, it is seen in less than 1% cases. Poliovirus invades central nervous system and it causes paralysis. The type of paralysis seen in polio is asymmetrical flaccid paralysis. So it is suggestive of lower motor neuron paralysis. It is descending type of paralysis. So it progresses from proximal part to the distal parts of the body. What history we can get in paralytic polio cases? We can get history of fever associated with anorexia, nausea, vomiting, headache, sore throat, constipation, and abdominal discomfort or abdominal pain. What signs we can get in a case of paralytic polio? There are signs of meningeal irritation, that is, there is stiffness of neck and back muscles. In addition to this, we may find tripod sign. What is tripod sign? In this sign, child has difficulty to sit. Child sits by doing partial flexion of hips, knees, and child gives support to the back with hands. Prior to onset of paralysis, deep tendon reflexes are diminished. But in paralytic polio, there is no sensory loss. And following paralytic poliomyelitis, atrophy of muscles can be seen. Let's see some rare forms of paralytic polio. As we are calling these as rare forms, these cases can be seen very rarely. So in this form of paralytic polio, there may be involvement of cranial nerves. And this involvement of cranial nerves, it may result in bulbar paralytic polio or bulbospinal paralytic polio. In this image, you can see 91 to 96% cases with subclinical infection, 4 to 8% cases with abortive poliomyelitis, and it is just 0.1 to 1% cases may present to you with paralytic poliomyelitis. Which sample you will collect for lab investigation of polio case? It includes collection of blood sample and collection of stool sample. What test you will advise to these cases? Either culture or isolation of virus. These tests will help in diagnosis of poliomyelitis. Differential diagnosis. As we said, in paralytic poliomyelitis, the type of paralysis we get is asymmetrical flaccid paralysis. So this flaccid paralysis we can get in other conditions, and these conditions must be differentiated from poliomyelitis. It includes Guillain-Barré syndrome, transverse myelitis, and traumatic neuritis. What is treatment for paralytic poliomyelitis? For cases of paralysis, there is no specific treatment, but good general nursing care helps a lot, and physiotherapy plays important role, as well as calipers may help the child for rehabilitation purpose. If you think in relation to levels of prevention, that is primary level, secondary level and tertiary level of prevention, and how to prevent poliomyelitis. For primary prevention, the most important measure is immunization or vaccination. For secondary level of prevention, it is appropriate treatment of all cases of paralytic polio. Whereas tertiary level of prevention, it is concerned with rehabilitation of all cases of paralytic poliomyelitis. Primary prevention. What are the effective interventions that we can use for primary prevention of poliomyelitis? It includes health education, it includes improvement in sanitation, improvement in hygiene, and the most important intervention is vaccination against poliomyelitis. The most effective way of prevention of poliomyelitis is vaccination. In this image, you can see OPV abbreviation, which stands for oral polio vaccine, or it is also known as Sabin vaccine. It is IPV, that is inactivated polio vaccine, also known as Salk vaccine.
Polio is a disease that causes permanent paralysis. We can't cure it, but we can prevent it. Two important tools help to prevent polio: two safe, effective vaccines. One of these vaccines is given with just 2 drops into the mouth of a child. This is called the oral polio vaccine. The other is given with an injection. This is called the inactivated poliovirus vaccine. They both teach children's bodies how to fight off the polio virus, but they do this in different ways. The oral polio vaccine builds protection in the child's intestine. This vaccine not only protects the child who receives it, but also protects others around the vaccinated child. Several doses of the oral polio vaccine should be given to every single child in places where polio is a threat. The injectable vaccine builds protection in the blood instead of the gut. It helps to boost immunity and keeps countries free from polio. But it doesn't stop polio spreading between children, so it is not as useful in places where the virus is still circulating. We need the oral vaccine to stop the virus wherever it is found. Once polio has been stopped everywhere, the inactivated poliovirus vaccine will be used on its own to keep populations protected. Both of these vaccines have been approved as safe and effective by the World Health Organization. To do their job properly, they need to be given to all children, no matter where they live. Thanks to these vaccines, cases of polio have fallen by over 99% around the world. Let's vaccinate every last child. Let's end polio forever.
What is difference between these two vaccines? That is IPV and OPV. IPV is inactivated vaccine or also known as Salk vaccine, whereas OPV is oral polio vaccine, also known as Sabin vaccine. What type of vaccines these are? IPV is killed vaccine or it is inactivated vaccine, whereas OPV is live attenuated vaccine. By which route these vaccines are given? So based on route of administration, IPV is given by parenteral route, that is it is given in the form of injections, whereas oral polio vaccine is given orally. What type of immunity these vaccines produces? IPV on administration, it produces only humoral immunity or systemic immunity. Now what is meaning of this? It means whatever antibodies are produced following administration of IPV, these antibodies they circulate in blood and they keeps check on the poliovirus and prevents spread of poliovirus to central nervous system. Thus, IPV provides protection against paralytic polio. What about OPV? OPV produces both humoral immunity or systemic immunity as well as intestinal immunity or local immunity. What is meaning of this? So as you know, as it produces humoral immunity, it will provide protection against paralytic polio. But in addition to this, it also produces intestinal or local immunity which provides protection against reinfection. So, IPV helps to prevent paralytic polio, whereas OPV helps to prevent paralytic polio as well as prevents reinfection. Can we use these vaccines for controlling epidemics? IPV cannot be used to control epidemics of poliomyelitis, but at the same time, OPV can be safely and effectively used for controlling epidemics of poliomyelitis. The manufacturing process related to IPV is difficult, whereas OPV is easy to manufacture. Cost of IPV is high, whereas OPV is cheap. Storage condition for IPV is about 2 to 8 degrees Celsius, whereas for OPV it is essential to store this vaccine at sub-zero temperature. Administration of IPV and OPV. IPV is administered by parenteral route. It can be given intramuscularly or intradermally. If in immunization schedule only IPV is used, total 4 doses of this vaccine should be given. First dose is given at the age of 6th week, second dose is given at the age of 10th week, and third dose is given at the age of 14th week. If you note here, time interval between these doses is 4 weeks. But time interval between third dose and fourth dose is long. It is 6 months to 1 year. Additional doses of IPV are recommended at the time of school entry and then every 5 years till 18 years of age. Now about oral polio vaccine. Oral polio vaccine is administered by oral route. 2 drops of this vaccine are administered. Now as per National Immunization Schedule, currently we give primary doses as well as booster dose of OPV. As per guidelines, the oral polio vaccine which is used is bivalent oral polio vaccine. Primary doses, it includes birth dose. So birth dose should be given on the day of the birth of the baby. But if it is not institutional delivery, it can be given up to 15 days. It should be followed by 3 doses further at the age of 6th week, 10th week and 14th week. Booster dose is recommended at the age of 16 to 24 months. Upper age limit for both primary doses and booster dose is 5 years. Advantages of IPV. IPV can be safely given to immunodeficient persons, persons above 50 years of age, persons receiving steroids or persons receiving radiation therapy, or even it can be safely given to pregnant females. Disadvantages associated with administration of IPV, it includes minor vaccine reactions like tenderness, induration or erythema at the site of injection. Advantages of OPV. OPV is easy to administer. On administration, it produces both humoral immunity as well as intestinal immunity and thus provides protection against paralytic polio as well as against reinfection. After administration, immune response is quickly elicited. Sometimes problem may occur in tropical countries. Herd immunity is produced in community even if immunization coverage is low. Oral polio vaccine can be safely and effectively used to control epidemics. And it is cheap vaccine and its manufacturing is also easy. While administering OPV, you must remember most important complication associated with its use. It is vaccine associated paralytic polio. OPV is live attenuated vaccine. On administration, virus multiplies in intestine and it is excreted in the feces by vaccinee. So this virus is known as vaccine virus or it is also called as vaccine derived polio virus. Now this vaccine virus, it is capable of producing paralytic polio. When we immunize 10 lakh children, out of these 4 cases are likely to occur due to vaccine virus. Out of these cases, 60% cases they occur because of OPV type 3, whereas remaining 40% cases they occur because of type 2 and type 1. Now clinically it is very difficult to differentiate paralytic polio produced by wild polio virus and produced by vaccine virus. So, on clinical background, differentiation between cases of paralytic polio produced by wild virus or cases of paralytic polio produced by vaccine virus becomes difficult. So, we'll have to go for laboratory test. It is isolation of virus and this test is RRT-PCR, that is real-time reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction.
Polio is an incurable disease that can cause permanent paralysis. Thankfully, there's a very effective vaccine known as the oral polio vaccine, which provides lifelong protection from polio. Each drop of the vaccine contains a weakened form of the polio virus. This helps the body to develop immunity so that the child is protected against polio. Just like the wild polio virus, the vaccine virus can be passed from child to child. This helps spread the protection against polio to other children, even those who aren't vaccinated. However, when a large number of children are not vaccinated and immunity levels are very low, the vaccine virus can continue to spread from one unprotected child to another for a long period of time. As the virus continues to find unvaccinated children, it undergoes small genetic changes. On very rare occasions, this can cause the weakened virus to change into a form that can cause paralysis. These rare virus strains are called vaccine-derived polioviruses. They can paralyze people for life and can even spread to cause outbreaks. This is called a circulating vaccine-derived poliovirus. If immunity is high, vaccine-derived polio cannot arise. That's why it's so important to reach every last child with vaccines. If outbreaks do occur, they can be stopped in the same way as wild polio, with vaccination campaigns that protect children against all types of polio. To eradicate polio, we must stop all types of the virus. Let's make sure we vaccinate every child and end all polio for good.
What are contraindications for administration of oral polio vaccine? Oral polio vaccine should not be given to those patients who are suffering from leukemias or malignancy. At the same time, those patients who are receiving corticosteroids, oral polio vaccine should not be given. Now what about diarrhea and administration of OPV? So if child suffers from diarrhea, OPV can be given, but it should not be counted. That is, this administered dose of OPV should not be counted, and when the child recovers from diarrhea or when diarrhea subsides, another dose of oral polio vaccine should be given to that child. Storage of OPV, stabilized vaccine. Stabilization is done by adding magnesium chloride. At 4 degrees Celsius, stabilized vaccine can be stored for 1 year, whereas at 25 degrees Celsius, stabilized vaccine can be stored for 1 month. Non-stabilized vaccine, recommended temperature for its storage is -20 degrees Celsius. If we are using refrigerator for its storage, this non-stabilized vaccine must be kept in freezing chamber of refrigerator. Simultaneously, it is very essential to maintain appropriate temperature during transportation and administration of non-stabilized vaccine. Administration of oral polio vaccine and feeding advice. What advice you are supposed to give following administration of oral polio vaccine? This advice includes maternal education regarding breastfeeding. So giving breastfeeding is safe. So following OPV, breastfeeding can be given, but administration of hot water or hot fluids or hot milk should be avoided for at least half an hour after oral polio vaccine. What are the problems that we can face with use of oral polio vaccine? Most important problem is this is one of the most heat sensitive vaccine. So if examiner will ask you example of heat sensitive vaccine, your first answer should be oral polio vaccine. Now since it is most heat sensitive vaccine, it is very essential to maintain cold chain. What is cold chain? It is system of storage and transportation of vaccine at low temperature from the site of manufacture to the site of use, or simply we can say from manufacturer to the user. It is very important to maintain cold chain of vaccine so that efficacy and potency of vaccine can be preserved. Sometimes even if we use potent oral polio vaccine for immunization, it may result in vaccine failure. Another problem is residual neurovirulence. Passive immunization. In current practice, there is no need of using passive immunization for the treatment of poliomyelitis. Why this is so? Because immunization coverage is wide. What is passive immunization? It is administration of normal human immunoglobulins, and it is important to administer before appearance of symptoms. Once the symptoms of poliomyelitis occurs, it is not effective. What it does after administration, it provides protection against paralytic polio, and protective effect, it remains for about few weeks. Epidemiological investigations. Now, in current scenario, even if a single case of poliomyelitis occurs, it is called as epidemic, and it is very essential to do prompt investigation. So what it includes? It includes active search, and this active search should be made to find other cases. It further includes laboratory investigations. So all cases as well as all suspected cases must be investigated. So what samples we are supposed to take for this? Yes, you are right. It should be sample of feces. So sample of feces is collected from all cases as well as from suspected cases for isolation of virus. In addition to it, we should do serological test. For this, sample of paired sera is collected in acute phase and in convalescent phase. Simultaneously, we should begin with immunization using oral polio vaccine. All those persons above the age of 6 weeks whose immune status is not known or who have not been immunized completely should be given oral polio vaccine. At the same time, notification to World Health Organization is essential. And in addition to this notification, regular reporting after every 3 months to World Health Organization is also important. What are the strategies that are recommended for eradication of poliomyelitis in India? These strategies includes to increase and maintain high immunization coverage, detection of all cases of acute flaccid paralysis, mandatory reporting of all cases of acute flaccid paralysis occurring in children below the age of 15 years. To whom reporting should be done? Yes, it should be done to SMO, that is Surveillance Medical Officer. Another strategy is mopping up. What is meaning of mopping up? It means door-to-door immunization. It is carried out in high-risk districts. High-risk districts are those districts where wild polio virus is present or it is suspected to be present. One more strategy is conduction of PPI, that is pulse polio immunization until polio is eradicated. Pulse polio immunization, it is one of the most important strategy undertaken by Government of India for eradication of polio. Why Government of India started pulse polio immunization? What is aim of this immunization? The most important aim to start this program is to break chain of transmission of wild polio virus and at the same time to replace this wild polio virus in the community by vaccine virus. Pulse polio immunization, it is also known as National Immunization Days and it is mass immunization campaign which is conducted by Government of India every year. Let us try to understand what is meaning of pulse here. Pulse means sudden mass administration of oral polio vaccine on a single day to all children below the age of 5 years irrespective of their previous polio vaccination status. What it means? Which vaccine we are using in PPI? Yes, you are correct. It is oral polio vaccine. To whom this vaccine is given? It is given to each and every child who is below age of 5 years. So whether the child has taken previously oral polio vaccine or whether the child has not taken or whether the parents are not aware about their immunization status related to polio. So pulse polio immunization, it is additional immunization. So it should be carried out or it is carried out in addition to routine polio immunization. When Government of India started pulse polio immunization program, this program was started in India in 1995. 2 rounds of polio vaccination were conducted. First round was conducted on 9th December 1995 and second round was conducted on 28th January 1996. In this immunization program, oral polio vaccine was administered to children below the age of 3 years. But right now, we are following guideline given by World Health Organization, and currently we are immunizing under 5 age group under Pulse Polio immunization program. Now you know, in Pulse Polio immunization, we conduct 2 rounds of oral polio vaccination. What should be the minimum time interval between these 2 rounds? It is about 4 weeks to 6 weeks. In India, PPI is generally conducted from the month of November to month of February. Why this particular season is selected for pulse polio immunization activity? This is because this is the season when transmission of polio virus is low. Plus, during this season, it is easy to maintain cold chain, and at the same time, good compliance is shown by field workers during this season. Whatever doses of oral polio vaccine are given in PPI are additional doses, or these are supplementary doses. What it means? These 2 additional doses of PPI, it should not replace routine doses of oral polio vaccine. And there is no minimum interval between PPI doses and between routine OPV doses. In 2005 and 2006, advisory group on polio eradication was formulated in India. This advisory group has given 2 important recommendations, which includes supplementary immunization activities, and it includes administration of birth dose of oral polio vaccine. So let us see first supplementary immunization activities. It includes social mobilization to target those groups missed during previous immunization activities. This advisory group recommended use of mobile teams for administration of oral polio vaccine at transit points like bus stations, railway stations, etc. Second recommendation, as we already said, it is given for high risk areas, which includes administration of birth dose of monovalent oral polio vaccine type 1. What is current status of poliomyelitis in India? Yes, as you know, currently India is free from poliomyelitis. And is it not our responsibility to maintain this free state? Yes. So what government has done for this purpose? So government has taken certain steps so that we can maintain polio free state in India in future also. Let's have a look about these steps. In all states and in all union territories of India, rapid response teams are formulated. These rapid response team will take quick action in case if polio outbreaks occurs in future. In addition to this, EPRP is prepared by all states. What is EPRP? It is Emergency Preparedness and Response Plan. So this indicates what step we should take if in future a case of poliomyelitis will occur in India. Simultaneously, each and every newborn is immunized with polio vaccine in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. The most important step is pulse polio immunization, where we target each and every eligible child who is below the age of 5 years, and we administer extra doses of oral polio vaccine. These doses are administered at various places like fixed booths, or bus stations, railway stations, marketplaces, religious places, major road crossings, etc. In addition to fixed booths, in addition to these areas, special booths are also formed. These are formed at border areas with intention to immunize those children who are coming across the border. Examples of such special booths are at Wagha border, plus at Atari railway station in Punjab, etc. So now in addition to fixed booths, various places, special booths, home visit or house to house visits are also given for administration of oral polio vaccine to eligible children. To maintain polio free state in India, surveillance is carried out. This surveillance focus on detection of any imported case in India or presence of circulating vaccine derived poliovirus. There are high risk areas or high risk blocks. These are about 107 in number. So in these high risk blocks, multi-pronged strategy is advised. What is this multi-pronged strategy? It includes administration of oral polio vaccine plus, in addition to vaccination, ensuring sanitation, ensuring hygiene, and at the same time providing safe drinking water to these high risk blocks. What strategy is adopted by Government of India for endgame of polio? As per guidelines given by World Health Organization, India introduced IPV, that is inactivated polio vaccine, in National Immunization Schedule from 30th November 2015. In addition to it, from April 2016, India carried out switch from trivalent OPV to bivalent OPV. Trivalent OPV, this vaccine consists of all three strains of poliovirus, that is type 1, type 2 and type 3. Whereas bivalent OPV, it consists of only two strains of poliovirus, that is type 1 and type 3. Now why this switch is essential? As you know, wild poliovirus type 2 is globally eradicated, so now there is no need of using trivalent OPV, and this switch from trivalent OPV to bivalent OPV is essential as a part of polio endgame strategy. In addition to introduction of IPV, switch from trivalent OPV to bivalent OPV, one of the important strategy for endgame of polio is AFP surveillance, that is acute flaccid paralysis surveillance. So each and every case of acute flaccid paralysis which occurs in children below 15 years of age is paid attention under this surveillance. So this AFP surveillance was started in India from 1997 to support to pulse polio immunization. In this activity, special training is given to medical officers, and these trained medical officers are known as SMOs, that is Surveillance Medical Officers. Entire national AFP surveillance is monitored from Delhi, where National Surveillance Team is established. And at state level, the entire activities related to AFP surveillance are monitored by surveillance medical officers. All cases of acute flaccid paralysis are reported regularly on weekly basis. And since 1997 till 2014, more than 50,000 cases of AFP are reported. I hope you understood agent, host, and environmental factors of poliomyelitis. The concept of prevention and control of poliomyelitis is clear to all. Is it so? So thank you very much for watching this video.